Lena, a young woman with bright eyes and an even brighter smile, moved into the old apartment building on a sunny Tuesday. The air smelled of dust and old books, but a fresh coat of paint on the walls gave it a hopeful feel. Her apartment, a cozy one-bedroom on the third floor, overlooked a quiet street. Lena unpacked boxes, her heart full of anticipation for this new chapter in her life. This was a fresh start, a place to be herself. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the room, Lena settled down with a cup of tea and a good book, content in her new home. The first night in the apartment was quiet, almost too quiet. The silence was broken only by the occasional creak of the building settling. Lena slept soundly, the events of the move finally catching up with her. But the second night, a new sound pierced the silence. A whisper, soft and low, seemed to come from the very walls themselves. Lena sat up in bed, her heart pounding in her chest. "Lena!" The whisper came again, a breathy sigh that sent shivers down her spine. Lena froze, her breath caught in her throat. She strained to hear, her eyes scanning the dark corners of her room. Was it the wind? An old building like this was bound to have its share of drafts. She told herself it was nothing, just her imagination playing tricks on her. Closing her eyes tightly, she tried to will her fear away. She needed sleep. Tomorrow was a big day at her new job. The next day, Lena couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The whisper, though faint, replayed in her mind, making her doubt her own sanity. She tried to focus on work, on the excitement of her new job, but the whisper lingered like a bad taste in her mouth. As nightfall approached, Lena felt a growing sense of dread. She didn't want to go back to the apartment, didn't want to face the silence that seemed to hum with unspoken words, but she had nowhere else to go. Returning to the apartment, she turned on all the lights, as if to banish the darkness and whatever it held. She tried to read, to watch TV, to distract herself, but the silence seemed amplified now, pregnant with anticipation. And then it came, louder this time, a raspy voice slithering out from the shadows. "Lena!" Lena's blood ran cold. This was no draft, no figment of her imagination. Something was in her apartment, something that knew her name. Terror, raw and consuming, took hold. She jumped up, her heart hammering against her ribs. Fumbling for her phone, she considered calling for help. But who would believe her? Who would believe that her apartment was haunted by a voice, a whisper in the night? The next morning, Lena woke up with dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept a wink. The voice had continued to whisper her name throughout the night, growing louder each time, driving her to the edge of sanity. She couldn't live like this, couldn't spend another night in that apartment. She decided to confide in Mrs. Rodriguez, the kindly old woman who lived across the hall. Mrs. Rodriguez listened patiently, her wrinkled face etched with concern. "Querida," Mrs. Rodriguez said, her voice full of sympathy, "maybe you should stay with a friend for a while. A change of scenery might do you good." Lena nodded, relieved to have anyone acknowledge her fear. Mrs. Rodriguez was right. She needed to get out of that apartment. Packing a small bag, she called her friend Sarah, her voice trembling as she explained the situation. Sarah, bless her soul, didn't hesitate. "Come over right now," she said. "I'll make you tea and we can talk." The relief Lena felt as she locked the apartment door behind her was palpable. She practically ran down the hallway, eager to escape the confines of her haunted home. But as she reached the elevator, a chilling thought stopped her in her tracks. She had left her phone charging on her bedside table. Cursing under her breath, Lena debated whether to go back. It was just a phone after all, but it was also her lifeline, her only way to contact Sarah if anything happened. Taking a deep breath, Lena turned back towards her apartment. As she unlocked the door, she told herself it was just a phone. "Don't be silly," she thought. The apartment was quiet, the lights still on from earlier, but as she entered her bedroom, she noticed something strange. There, on her pillow, lay a folded piece of paper. Her heart pounding in her chest, Lena slowly picked up the note. Unfolding it, she felt a cold shiver run down her spine as she read the single, chilling sentence scrawled across the page. "You should have stayed gone, Lena." It wasn't the note itself that terrified her, but the fact that her phone, which had been on the nightstand, was gone. Vanished.